Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla1991 here, and for today/tonight, depending on what time it is when you are watching this video, I will be talking about 3 of Safari Limited's Ice Age animals, those being the woolly mammoth, Smilodon aka saber-toothed cat, and Megatherium, the giant ground sloth. Now despite these models being newly recent to the collection, they're actually quite old figures. Well, to be more precise, they were originally released in the early to mid 2000s. However, you could still get them to this day, not only in souvenir shops and natural history museums across the world, but on websites such as everythingdinosaur.com, Amazon, and of course eBay. And even though I said they're new to the collection, only the mammoth and sabertooth are recent, while the giant sloth I've had for a few years. And yes, these are the real-life counterparts to the characters of Manny, Sid and Diego from the Ice Age films. Also, despite these figures being big, they're actually quite short when compared to the latest models, megafauna-wise, and to give you an understanding of what I mean, here they are with the Safari Limited 2018 Woolly Rhino, that we'll look at another time. Okay, the Mammoth and Megatherium are taller than Coelodonta, but as I said, they're old models, while the Rhino is recent and a lot more accurate. You will be able to see in the pictures, but the Woolly Rhino is also longer than the Mammoth. So yeah, even though he doesn't look like it, the Rhino is actually bigger. First up is the icon of the Ice Age, the woolly mammoth. Now as I said, this is one of Safari's older models, and I believe that this figure was originally released all the way back in 2004. His paint job is mostly dark brown, with bits of light brown. The tusks are, as usual, ivory white, and while yes they are weathered, but they're not as overly weathered as say Eofauna's Protocidium models. And both the tongue as well as the nostrils at the tip of the trunk appear to be a dark flesh colour. The sculpt of the mammoth is quite interesting because for the most part, design wise, he's your traditional woolly mammoth. However, I do have a couple of nitpicks with the figure. For example, the legs are rather skinny and kinda look squat, and the feet appear to look very awkward. Surely legs that are as skinny as these wouldn't be able to support an animal with a lot of great bulk. He still possesses his storage hub, but on this particular model, it looks a bit too small and kind of unnoticeable. Although it could be the way that the mouth has been positioned, and if you were to imagine that his head was lowered, then it's possible that the hump would stick out a bit more. And this isn't really an issue, but the way it was packaged, because as you can see, the tusks are touching each other where they should be further apart. These pictures were taken a while ago, and they have slowly started to open up again. Anyway, those are my nitpicks. And now time to talk about what I do like. I love the design, as you can tell that it's the woolly mammoth, and the pose that he's making shows that he is clearly calling out to signify that he is the strongest animal of the Pleistocene epoch. And I've been aware of this model for a very long time, years in fact, and I believe that I've also may have seen it on display in the odd museum, and thought they looked nice. Not the best mammoth figure, but still decent nonetheless, and I would be very interested to see Safari remake the woolly mammoth like they do with their dinosaurs. Up next is the second icon of the Ice Age, which is of course Smilodon, better known as the saber-toothed cat, and this figure is certainly outdated, because the design clearly portrays it as a tiger, despite being originally released in either 2004 or 2005, round about the same time as the mammoth. Okay, maybe not too bad, and it's not that tigery, unlike the miniature who definitely takes that crown, and it even says saber-toothed tiger on the underbelly. He possesses stripes all over the body, from the head, running across the back, and all the way up to the tail, and onto the legs. Like most other saber-tooth figures, he is roaring, showing off those menacing weapons, as this is an animal that you do not want to get into an argument with, otherwise you'll probably end up in pieces. And also, like the mammoth's tusks, the sabers are weathered, which would have been possible, because they would have been exposed to the elements. He possesses whiskers which definitely would have been present on the actual animal, however they are painted on. The model is posed showing the cat on the prowl, with the front right foot raised up to indicate stalking. But then again he might be getting ready to attack prey, or to get into a fight with a rival or another predator, because the claws are stuck out. On the right paw they are, on the left they're coming out, and the back are still retracted. Overall, despite being outdated, I still believe that Smilodon is one of Safari's best, and another recommendable one, especially if you're an enthusiast on saber-toothed cats, like yours truly. As for what species this figure represents, well, my guess is Smilodon fatalis, but it can also work as either Smilodon gracilis or Smilodon populator, but he does give me Fatalis vibes. Finally is the real life Little Sloth, even though from what I have heard, the character is actually based on Megalonyx rather than Megatherium. Now for the release of this South American behemoth, I believe that he originally came out in 2005, then got discontinued, but made a comeback a few years ago. Like the other two we've looked at, this model is also outdated, as it's now believed that because since the giant ground sloth lived in a warm environment, Megatherium wasn't as overly hairy as originally thought. And in a way, this does actually make sense. So Safari definitely need to upgrade this Goliath, or giant sloth as they labelled him. But at the time this figure was released, it was quite accurate, although I thought some hair had been uncovered in a cave, and it now resides in the Natural History Museum in London, and it also could have belonged to Megatherium. Megatherium had the ability to switch between biped and quadruped, and this model is depicted standing upright. Perhaps he has found a tree and is reaching out to graze, or maybe he has defended himself from an attacking carnivore like a saber-toothed cat. I think terrorbirds would think twice before attacking such a colossus. The colour scheme of the sloth is light brown, with dark brown mixed in. My only gripe with the figure is the tail. As you can see, he has what appears to be a kink. It may be for support, but it does look pretty unrealistic. Anyway, aside from that, this is a lovely giant ground sloth model, and despite this titan being a famous and recognisable Pleistocene giant, we surprisingly don't get that many Megatherium merch. Well, okay, maybe not too long ago, the company TNG announced their interpretation of the giant ground sloth, and it really does look nice. I just wish that the figure and the other TNG models were all available on everythingdinosaur.com. Hopefully maybe one day, but I would honestly love to see Collector make their own version of Megatherium. Perhaps one day, as it is also another most requested from me, along with Inostransavia, the Dodo, Novosaurus, and deluxe versions of their new Allosaurus and Megalosaurus that were released back in 2020. So what are my final thoughts on Safari's Ice Age animals? These are truly great models, and if you're a Pleistocene enthusiast like myself, then these will be a must-have. I don't exactly remember what made me want to add them to the collection. The giant sloth I bought as a souvenir when I visited the Natural Museum in Cambridge back in mid-2018, but the woolly mammoth and Smilodon, I can't remember. I think it may be because last year at the time, Safari announced that they were retiring and withdrawing some of their models, mainly the megafauna, such as the woolly rhino, Daeodon and Uindotherium, that I did a review on New Year's Day at the start of this year, 2025. The link to that video will be in the description below. So I decided to order Safari's takes on the woolly mammoth and saber-toothed cat, just in case they too kick the bucket. However, despite loving these figures, I would still like Safari to make updated brand new models of these Ice Age Goliaths at some point in the future. This is Dragonzilla1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.